Gratitude greetings to the distinguished guests, Ndinephupha program organizers, fellow peers, and the house at large. Standing before you is none other than Akhona Mtotywa from your high school, which I'm doing grade 11. Well, my presentation is based on my dream regarding fighting xenophobia. I have tried to compile a story based on xenophobia, but it is not much convincing, but I don't know, maybe you'll find it. But it is a true story. Okay. In South Africa, we say we are a democratic country, yet we are still practicing democracy. The reason why I said this, it is because xenophobia is still practiced. Some South Africans are criticizing and torturing each other. Some South Africans are still criticizing and torturing other Africans that come outside South Africa just because of the fear and hatred that they are here to take their jobs or to take everything. Harmony in our country does not exist. If there's peace, why do you have people who are still protesting against crime, injustice, inequality, insufficient jobs, etc.? Whereas the late former president, Mr. Nelson Mandela, on his speech that he addressed in 1994, he said, I quote, "Never and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another and suffer the indignity of being the scums of the world," close quote. A brief background why I said all this mentioned above. My community, which is located at Motherwell, we are different in many ways, like different South African languages spoken, for example, Zulu, Sotho, and Xhosa. Different lifestyles, different standard of living. So during a period of 2015 to 2016, around mid-year, June, July, August, there was a man popularly known as David Omwendo, which that name is not his real name. He was named David Omwendo because commuters didn't know how to pronounce his name. He was a refugee that came alone from Ethiopia, seeking a better life here in South Africa. Some people describe him as a humble and a respectful man who barely could hurt a fly. So before Mr. David came to stay in Motherwell, he stayed at KwaZulu location, but no one knows why he moved out of that location. So when he arrived at Motherwell, he had to find a job and a place to stay. But luckily, a good Samaritan who was living alone gave him a place to crash. Mr. Omwendo had a difficulty in finding a job, and no one wanted to hire him just because he didn't speak a South African language. I mean, like, who does that? But one day, his landlord kitchen sink broke down, and no one in that community or neighborhood had experience in plumbing. Sorry, there's no scope for pronunciation. And the only person who could do that was Mr. Omwendo. After the good job that Mr. Omwendo did, he was praised by many people for what he had done. And he was recommended in places around Motherwell and all over PE. Money started to get in his account, and that was a very good thing to him. That's when the friction started. I remember I was 13 or 14 years old, but I didn't know much about xenophobia. It was the 10th of June, 2015, around 11 o'clock midnight. Mr. Omwendo did a traditional ceremony to thank his ancestors for such a great thing that they have done for him. That night, the neighborhood didn't sleep well because of the noise that he did. And people thought he was a witch practicing witchcraft. that was his culture, and none of the communities understood what he was doing. I do my own culture. We do imbeleko. Why do you have to ask him about his culture? He said he was doing his culture, but why do we have to ask him? Well, if there's nobody who asks us why do we do imbeleko. So, Mr. Omwendo, the following day, when he woke up, there were people surrounding the yard where he was living. They wanted to ask him questions about what is happening the night before. He said that, as I am saying this, I was doing what I was supposed to do. My mother told me that I was not there that morning. My mother told me that Mr. Omwendo did nothing to anybody, but no one could listen to him. She said that he was tortured just because he did one thing. I mean, like one simple thing, doing his traditional thing. He was tortured, beaten, and also beaten for that he got a job first than South Africans. Mr. Omwendo was sent back to his country just because of that. Where is Ubuntu? We as Africans, we have to unite together and stand together and fight the enemy of xenophobia. But that didn't happen. So that's why I have a dream that each and every black person can walk freely without being criticized or judged. I have a dream that equality should be fair and generalized to every black person, no matter where you come from. Your background, your home ground does not describe you, does not determine where you're coming from. Xenophobia is not our friend, and we should be against it. In concluding, our country will be civilized if we as Africans hold hands, unite, and play our part. I have already played my part. I got a friend who is a Zimbabwean. Her name is Precious Gwanzura. So it is your part now to play yours. Like you have to have a friend who is coming from anywhere. You don't have to criticize that person just because he or she speaks Shona. What is that? You have to learn his or her language so that you can know better. Not this thing what that we're doing, we're criticizing, oh, she was Zimbabwean, oh, she's an Ethiopian. What is that? We should stand together. We come from one Africa, one Africa. So we should stand together and fight the enemy of xenophobia. I thank you.